I mean, I didn't even have a third character.
We are losing objective apples.
I didn't have a second one. I did max up.
I have all three, but I took him off the horse. Let's fucking go. About to take this bitch.
Jesus Christ. What's going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or Catalyst with Legendary Inc., and this is How to Not Suck at Sniping Part 2. After the feedback from the first video, one of the two most popular videos on our channel, I thought it would be a great idea to cover the things that I missed in the first video, mainly tips and tricks when using infantry, marksman, and carbine rifles. If for some reason you're coming to Part 2 first instead of Part 1 will be linked in the description, and if you've seen Part 1, I hope you enjoy Part 2 just as much. As always, if you like the video, don't forget to leave a like and a comment. It really helps us out a lot. And if you're new, why not subscribe? Well, first things first, I'm going to put up on the screen the information for our platoon, so if you all are interested, you can join up with us while we are online. And we'd love to play with you guys, so here's the information. And secondly, here are my game settings and my sensitivity as well. I know that was requested by a few of you, so here you go. Okay, now let's get into it. So in the first video, I covered the 3 P's for perfect sniping: positioning, poise, and precision. Essentially, I covered where you should be on the battlefield and when, how to mentally prepare yourself for sniping, and how to get the most precision possible. So for more in-depth descriptions on those 3 P's, go and watch the first part, and if you haven't already, and if you need a refresher course, because a lot of those tips also come into play when using infantry rifles, but in slightly different ways, because after all, you are dealing with different ranges. This video is going to be shorter and retrospectively less informative, because I have covered a lot of this stuff already, and there would be no point in me repeating myself for those in the back, if you get what I mean. So obviously, there are differences and changes between using a sniper rifle and an infantry rifle, but the biggest and most important differences are the things you give up when you use an infantry rifle versus using a sniper rifle. Using an infantry rifle, you lose a lot of precision accuracy at long ranges, and you lose the ability to see further down the battlefield to pick off targets and spot hard to see vehicles. With a sniper rifle, you lose a lot of speed and peripheral vision in exchange for greater long range accuracy. A lot of this is common sense, but it's something for you to keep in mind because it factors into playstyle. Knowing all of this, the best way to use infantry rifles is by using a tactic I call peeking and popping. Since you cannot afford to play slowly and behind the lines, your positioning needs to be really good in order for you to find some success. And in order to do this, you need to position yourself in spots that have a greater amount of cover than normal and allow you to control a smaller portion of the map with your rifle. And what I mean by this is that you need to patrol a smaller zone, or a cone if you will. Every player in the game has a cone of peripheral vision. One of the advantages of a scoped rifle is that you can scan a larger cone or scan it with more detail on the battle based on where you are, but with an infantry rifle you cannot really afford to do that. So in order to make the task easier for yourself, find spots that give you a sight of a smaller proportion of the map. So this can be high traffic areas, trenches, hiding inside of buildings and tanks, in between sand dunes, and so on and so forth. From these positions you can take quick, rapid succession shots, maybe 1 to 2 clips depending on the clip size and the rechamber speed. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but you'll take shots and then relocate to another position. So I think it's really important to know what to look for in an infantry rifle, because you are going to be playing in a playstyle that is the polar opposite of what a sniper ideally should be playing. So in my opinion, speed and iron sights are the most important qualities that you need to be looking for in your rifle when you are choosing which weapon to play with. Since you don't have the benefit of playing at longer ranges to protect you from the assault, medic, and support players, you need to focus on things that are going to make challenging those players easier. And as I've said, those things to me are speed and good iron sights, because landing your shots and doing it quickly is going to allow you to challenge more effectively and not die as much when you engage. This being said, I highly recommend the Gewehr 95 and the Lebel 1886 rifle. Now, it should be worth noting that even though I'm going to be talking about infantry rifles more specifically, I do take carbines into account with all the tips, because even though there is an optical sight of some sort giving you greater range, greater vision, they play quite the same. Now, the reason I like the Gewehr 95 so much is because of how fast it fires. It allows you to get easy follow-up shots and an incredibly fast pace, and the iron sights are very manageable. The Lebel, although it fires a bit slower, it has 2 extra rounds in the magazine, and the iron sights are some of the most well-defined in the entire game, so it is very, very easy for me to see what I'm shooting at. I'm using the Lebel right now in this gameplay, and you'll see that the iron sights are very, very crisp and clean. Weapons like the SMLE and the Russian 1885 are okay. Having a 10-round clip is nice if you're using the SMLE, but the iron sights are very bulky, and as for the Russian 1885, I mean, I can't really say anything. I just do not like how the weapon feels or handles. You might, however, like it, so if that's the case, I'd say give it a shot, but you could be using something better in my opinion. The weapon that I would really advise you to stay away from is the Gewehr 98. Unlike its scoped brother, which happens to be my weapon of choice and my favorite weapon in the entire game, the infantry version of the 98 is disastrous because the ring chamber animation gets in the way of you tracking your target, and the Russian 1885 falls under this category a little bit as well. But another big culprit of this is the Moisen Nagant infantry. The reach chamber is extremely awkward, and it gets in the way of you tracking and or looking for new targets, so I would try and avoid these weapons unless you tend to play around their sweet spots, which then I would say it's less of an issue. Now, I'd like to advise you all to run all infantry rifles with the bayonet equipped. I know that it means it'll mess with your accuracy a little bit, but it's really not that noticeable. But if it is bothering you, you can take it off. But I think that it's essential to have a bayonet on when you are playing with infantry rifles because of the close range that you will be playing at. Now, just like your typical sniper rifle, infantry and carbine rifles have sweet spots as well, but you probably wouldn't notice this because the bulk of your kills using infantry rifles are going to be 2 shots, or they're going to be on targets that have already been damaged quite a bit. Because regardless, just like I said in part 1, you need to learn and understand each weapon's sweet spot. It really does not so much apply to the infantry rifle. But even so, you need to understand the ideology of a sweet spot and play to it to get the best results, just in case you do get that one target that is at full health and in your sweet spot range. Now, I said that infantry rifles have sweet spots too, and unfortunately that's not entirely true for all the weapons on the game. Both the Gewehr 95 and the M1903 experimental don't have a sweet spot. Now, for the experimental, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to understand why, seeing that it really isn't a sniper rifle to begin with, but for the Mark 95, it's mysteriously lacking, and I'm sure that there is a reason for this, but to be completely honest with you all, I think a reason for this is that the gun would be very overpowered if it did have a sweet spot. Seriously. The Gewehr Mark 95 is that good. It's probably one of the best rifles in the game, period, disregarding which variant you're using. So without the sweet spot instilled on the infantry version, you still get the faster rechamber and the fire rate you get the fastest in the entire stout class tier, apart from how fast you can destroy the trigger while you're using the M1903 experimental, but that's aside the point. Now, you're probably thinking that I'm missing a huge piece of this discussion, but don't worry, I haven't at all. What about the Martini Henry? Where does this bad boy stand? Well, see, here's the thing. If you struggle with general precision and using rifles in general, using the Martini Henry will not help you get more kills. In fact, I think it'll fundamentally make you worse, and here's why. It's really a common misconception that a large, and by large I mean wide, covering a long range, but close sweet spot, which will get you more one-shot kills at the range you'll be playing with, and that's completely true, but you need to hit your targets first, because if you don't with the Martini Henry, you're sitting through a long reload animation instead of firing off follow-up shots, resulting in you getting less chances to kill your target. Not only that, but if you are not hitting in the sweet spot range, you essentially give up on killing that target if you don't get a headshot because of the reload, and this is without mentioning that you may hit the target's arms or legs and not the torso or the head. So I would advise that if you have trouble with accuracy at all, if you do not feel confident in your shot, do not use the Martini Henry. Use something with a larger magazine that will give you more opportunities to kill instead of something that will, yes, kill in one hit if you are in your one hit kill sweet spot range, but also it disables you in terms of efficiency on the battlefield. So I would say that, again, if you have any accuracy issues, play with other rifles in the game so that you can increase your accuracy to the point where using the Martini Henry puts you at less of a disadvantage. That all being said, I would highly suggest unlocking and trying the Vertelli infantry rifle. It is a very similar sweet spot to the Martini Henry, and it has 4 more rounds in the magazine for you to use. And I happen to quite like the iron sights and how the weapon handles. And that's it for part 2 of how to not suck at sniping in Battlefield 1. I hope this helped you all out. I know that there isn't as much gameplay tactics in this video, but that's because a lot of it was already covered in part 1. But I hope that this gave you all some insight on how to use infantry rifles and which ones to use and which ones to stay away from. Make sure that you like the video if you enjoyed and subscribe if you're new. I want to thank everyone for 250 subscribers. Welcome, and thanks for subscribing if you're new. Thanks for watching Legendary Inc., everyone. My name is Knicker Catalyst, and I will see you all another time.